This is the 2020 National College Football Championship between The Ohio State University and the University of Alabama. Your host tonight is LeGrant Anthony, a former black blue chip college football player and retired trial attorney. You are listening to the real black college football commentator, the only college football commentator with the audacity and insight to articulate the true behind-the-scene historical development of the top 20 college football teams in America. This is the real black blue chip football commentator speaking from a black perspective. This is the only place you will learn why HBCUs, that is historically black colleges and universities, are not playing for the national championship tonight. Let's get with it.
Are you ready, all you fans out there in out there land? I say it's time again. Have mercy, let the congregation say, amen. It's time for the biggest, baddest party in the...
All you need now is a little imagination. And your imagination, guys, whether you want to believe it or not, is a preview of their life's coming attractions. You can't imagine what it's going to be. Don't ever expect physically looking in and see it.
Thought it was over. Well, it's just getting started. I choose to fight back!
I'm coming.
Thought it was over. Well, it's just getting started. This is the part where you reinvent yourself. It's time to get tested, to test your will, your endurance. It's time to test your heart, to test your living.
Touch this. Can't 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 touch this.
beat it before you physically start.
I choose to rise, not fall. I choose to live, not die. The day will be that day. Not tomorrow, not next week, but right now, right here. Belief will change my world. History will remember me. I will define myself. I will never go out, not knowing I've given everything I got. But who am I? I am the champion. I choose to fight back.
It is incumbent upon the defense of Ohio State to get to the quarterback. And when you do so, you have nullified and canceled any threat that he might have. Look at that perfect pass thrown to number 6. That boy should have caught that ball. No, hell. That was interference, but that ball was still catchable. Number 6, sorry ass, you should have caught that ball. Who is that number 6? You don't miss a ball like that, throw it right in your damn arms, man. What's wrong with this fool? All right, now we got to run up the middle, and 2 score for Ohio State. Yes, we got a 4-yard touchdown run up the middle by Ohio State, number 33, Mr. T. That's right. Bring the heat, baby. Bring it in there. Bring that. Your linebacker get on you. Bring his ass on with you. Bring him on with you.
Tyree McCants with space. And there goes Tyree McCants. Inside the 5 and in. What a touchdown.
Yes, that's what you got to do. Now the score is 14-all because of a mistake that Alabama made. The score is 14-all because of a mistake of Alabama. Look at number 5. Boom! That white boy is only successful if he has an offensive line to protect him and give him the opportunity to throw the ball to whoever he wants to. But without that protection, he is no good to the offense and no good to the team. As I stated before, the day of the one-dimensional white quarterback is over. The success of a team that only has a one-dimensional quarterback is contingent upon the strength of the offensive line to protect him and stay in the pocket, and the talent of the running backs who must carry the game. Yes, and also the receivers that are able to catch the ball if the quarterback gets the protection he needs. You see, the one-dimensional quarterback is a liability. The one-dimensional white quarterback is a liability to your team. That is the damn truth.
There could have been opportunities for others, but they just weren't given the opportunity.
I was a down defensive lineman when I was in college, so I made the transition from down defensive lineman to linebacker, not just linebacker, but middle linebacker when I was drafted to play with the Giants. I grew to understand, and it was conveyed to me, that the middle linebacker position is a thinking man's position. So you have to have the brains. You got to have the strength and all of that stuff to play the game, but it was reserved primarily for white guys. Just like the center position, the quarterback position.
Somebody got to tell it. Everybody else want to be politically correct. I'm not interested in being politically correct. I'm interested in being correct. Ohio State recovered a fumble by the quarterback that is not used to seeing anybody chase after him. Somebody came in the backfield and chased after him, and he didn't know what to do but drop the ball. Oh, no. What am I going to do? There's a man coming after me. There's a man coming after me. What shall I do? I can't run. But that's what must happen. Ohio State must blitz. Ohio State must blitz and put pressure on the quarterback. T says, my turn now. You ain't the only black blue chip football running back. T said, I got that heat too. Man, what happened? Why did it take the defense so long to get downfield on the kickoff? They said Matt Jones was upset and don't know how to handle being a failure, not knowing how to evade in the backfield. Jones lost his cool because he got sacked because he lacks the ability to escape. Ain't nobody else fault but him.
My name is Tom Reitz. I am a student activist, and I am an unlikely activist. I grew up in a relatively conservative suburb called Plainfield, Illinois, and I had a bit of a tumultuous upbringing. Early on, I was in the foster care system, a state-funded program for youths whose parents had problems at home. My mother, diagnosed bipolar, suffering from alcoholism, was a loving yet troubled role model for me. I am also the son of a disabled American veteran who, following the death of my mother in 2010, raised me as a single parent on a fixed income. After high school, my father and I couldn't make ends meet, and I had to make my own way. While all of my newfound college friends were celebrating their first December break back from college, I was homeless, and I was scared. I call myself an unlikely activist because, like so many others, my journey to college was already statistically unlikely. Foster children are one of the most marginalized groups in the higher education system. But if you add family alcoholism, single parentage, and poverty, it becomes pretty hard to believe in yourself, that you can make an impact. From my statements, you could be guessing that this will be a cliche talk about how I pulled myself up from my bootstraps. It's not. I know that I still had a leg up because of white privilege, even though I started on a bottom rung.
So, what is white privilege?
White privilege is advantage that I got from being born white in a culture that favors whites.
Dr. Peggy McIntosh popularized the phrase white privilege more than 3 decades ago. She's an author, a scholar, and says it doesn't matter if you were born rich or not. White people in this country have an advantage. In a 1989 essay, she listed 46 ways being white has helped her.
Some of my examples were if the cops pull me over, I can be sure it's not because of my skin color. I can go shopping alone, pretty well assured that I won't be harassed or followed. If I need medical help or legal help, my race won't work against me. White privilege is mostly a matter of lack of awareness of the big system within which lighter people worldwide have been advantaged.
And when talking about that system, she's talking about systemic racism. So what is systemic racism? Temple University's Dr. Malefi Asante, a leading figure in African-American studies, says it's
the enactment of policies to punish a group or to oppress a group or to suppress a group, whether it's redlining various districts, keeping people from getting loans or getting houses, or whether it is suppression of voting.
And scholars say systemic racism is one of the factors that can contribute to unconscious or implicit bias, another term we've been hearing a lot lately. So what is implicit bias?
What it means is that people who are biased often assume that what they are doing is natural. That it is not based on racism. A person may assume that the black person who is arrested by the police must have been doing something wrong. There must have been something, you know, and in fact, many times there is nothing except the color of the person.
Both professors say the fact that the nation is starting to really talk about these terms and many others is a positive step forward.
We get a chance, and you particularly get a great chance to visit with a lot of players across the country. What type of things do you hear from players that are their concerns about making sure there's equality and justice within the sport and within their programs?
You know, I just spoke with a player maybe a week ago and called kind of out of frustration because he felt as though the wheels of progress were turning very slow on their campus, and there were still so many buildings on campus that were named after slaveholders or people that were promoting segregationists, and he felt as though there was nowhere for him to turn, and he's seen the articles about Kylan Hill. He knows about Chuba Hubbard, but he said also that he doesn't want to be the one that is the face of it. He doesn't want to be the one that takes on that burden. And so I think right now what I'm hearing from students, what I'm hearing from players is the fact that they feel like they are wearing a very heavy burden. Although, you know, they want to play, they don't want to put aside the social justice issues that are still on their campus, and they recognize that they are the most forward-facing individuals on that campus and that their voice can create change. But imagine grappling with that as a 18 through 21-year-old.
What your hopes are for the immediate future of college football, what would it be?
I mean, for me, it's that every player that's like Elijah has an opportunity to look at the sidelines and feel like he's represented, that has an opportunity to look up at his administration and feel like his best interest is really being taken to heart. And I do believe that the only way that that's possible is if the issue is forced of having diversity in college sports. And at the end of the day, everyone will be served. It will be one gigantic circle that will serve itself. Elijah will see representation. He might go and be a coach. He will be the role model and the leader for the next generation. And some of the things that we're seeing happening on campuses will no longer happen because the best interest of the main characters that play in this sport, which are black and brown at the highest level, will be served.
I think the whole idea of white privilege is setting us back. I believe that if I were black, I would be exactly where I am now. The victimization culture going on right now just frustrates the crap out of me. I think some people in the black community use the victimization as an excuse not to do well. I feel like the black community needs to take some responsibility for their own problems. I never blamed anybody else for my setbacks. I don't feel like I should be blamed for something that my ancestors did to your ancestors. What I should do is go into my bedroom and flog myself 60 lashes and pray for forgiveness every day because I'm white.
Okay, Wendy says she has worked hard for all of her successes and never benefited from white privilege. So she does not understand this victimization culture, as she calls it, that's going on right now. And then there is Renee, a different Renee, who says the term white privilege should be abolished because it just does not exist. Take a look.
I don't feel like I ever benefited from the so-called white privilege. I was raised in a blue-collar family. We lived in a black and white neighborhood. I never felt that I was given more opportunities than any of my African-American friends. I do believe that people of color are the most privileged in this country. They are afforded luxuries that are not given to the white Caucasian person. When I was a small child in grade school, and my African-American friends would all get free lunches, and I would go home and be like, why is that? I worked for 10 years as a subsidized housing manager, and I got to see firsthand the privilege to minorities. All the news wants to talk about is the white policeman who shot the young black boy running away. Well, if you weren't causing a crime, then you wouldn't run away. If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a duck. I do think that African Americans are making a point to fuel racism in this world today, and that this term white privilege is one way to bring it to the forefront. I absolutely believe that the term white privilege should be abolished. Privilege should be earned. Privilege should not be afforded to you just because the world says that you are a minority.
Okay, well, joining us in the audience is Renee and Wendy, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
It's good that you're having this show because what we see in the media is that we are constantly blamed and shamed for being white, and we don't know what to do. If I'm part of the problem, the white privilege problem, I have to be part of the solution. Right. I have to be able to be heard.
You have to admit there's a problem before there's any solution.
We have to understand and be able to have this conversation that says, look, we want to get to a society which has much less racism, but we're not there yet.
We just want to be equal with everybody.
But you're
we're all
asking
humans.
for that
we're
to
all
be
Americans.
You're
we
asking
need
for
to
that
one.
to happen now, but it can't happen now because it's not. We're not there yet.
It's a national.
We're not there yet. Let me just say. I mean, I have a PhD and a law degree. I have been asked. People have looked at me because of how I look and my son looks. They've looked at me, white people, and they've said, "Do you speak English?"
Wow.
You know? I mean, I've been told.
Stereotyping, like you said.
And they say it real slow, don't they?
Yes, because they're trying to,
And
you know,
loud.
and I'm like, I answer real
And
slow
loud.
too.
Slow and loud.
But we're not there.
But one of the ways we get to solutions is by listening and hearing. Right. You guys keep pushing back. You're so defensive. You won't let
We're just frustrated and tired of being attacked.
We're not attacking. We're trying to educate. And we're all telling you that we still on a daily basis experience racism, microaggressions. And if we're going to change this, you ladies, you white women, listen. You've got to listen and hear us and try to empathize with our experiences.
Former Iowa Hawkeyes football players are speaking out on Twitter about what they call racial issues within the culture of the Iowa Hawkeyes football program. On Friday night, former Iowa offensive lineman and current Chicago Bear James Daniels tweeted, quote, "There are too many racial disparities in the Iowa football program. Black players have been treated unfairly for far too long." Multiple other former Hawkeye players responded to Daniels' tweet with their own anecdotes, many criticizing longtime strength and conditioning coach Chris Doyle for racist comments and incidents in the past. Others, such as Amani Hooker, said the issue was cultural, with a tweet that read, quote, "I remember whenever walking into the facility, it would be difficult for black players to walk around the facility and be themselves, as if the way you grew up was the wrong way or wasn't acceptable, and that you would be judged by that and it would impact your playing time."
Back foul! Pressure. Oh, what a hit. Good move. Good move. He's in the end zone. They got him. And it's all over. Oh, what a play.
We're just going there like a bunch of crazy dogs. There's something that each one of us had. If the next generation was looking for that, what would we tell them this one core thing this group had that you can have?
To be inquisitive beyond comprehension, to try to reach for more than you can ever imagine you had, and try to expand the way in 50 years that they can be sitting here having discussion.
I think it's all about having a passion for doing what you're doing. I enjoy playing with this guy and all the other guys who I play with. And you know, that was one of my reasons for playing. Not that I loved the game so much, but the guys who I played with, they just elevated me. But also, when I look at you guys as black men who played a position that was reserved for non-black players. But now we've sort of set the bar for many of those who are playing the game now, and they're playing the game because we played the game, and they want to follow in our footsteps.
16. My only concern about Lamar Jackson is not deadly accurate. Mechanics are not what you call pretty mechanics.
No, sir, I'm a quarterback. Nobody makes a living in the National Football League at 213 with the ball in his hands every play.
Jalen Hurts took Alabama to the title game, transferred to Oklahoma, was a Heisman runner-up, threw for 3,851 yards and 32 touchdowns with 1,298 rushing yards and 20 more touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, there's a history of NFL teams demanding black quarterbacks switch positions at this time of year. In 1933, the NFL secretly decided to ban black players, reportedly at the behest of former Washington owner George Preston Marshall, a committed segregationist. The ban was rooted in the...
I think some people in the black community use the victimization as an excuse not to do well.
What?
People have to be made to feel uncomfortable, and especially white people, because we're comfortable. We still have no clue of what being born white means. And if you read some of the, recent literature, you'll realize it really is no such thing as whiteness. But we've kind of made it up. That's not my original thought, but it's true. And it's hard to sit down and decide that, yes, it's like you're at the 50 meter mark in a 100-meter dash. and you got that kind of a lead, yes, because you were born white, you have advantages that are systemically, culturally, psychologically there. And they've been built up and cemented for hundreds of years. But many people can't look at it. It's too difficult. It can't be something that is on their plate on a daily basis. People want to hold their position. People want the status quo. People don't want to give that up. And until it's given up, it's not going to be fixed.